Tonight's species is an offshore powerhouse. It can scream off drag like a AA fuel dragster. And I really like this fish because of how good it tastes to me. And if you haven't guessed by now, we're talking wahoos here on the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hey Floridians, you all know what time it is. It's your favorite time of the week on the Florida Insider Fishing Report with your favorite hosts, Rick and I. And to add to the Florida fishing fan favorites list, we are adding wahoo. Rick, why do you think wahoo is such a sought-after species? You
know, if you're an offshore fisherman, Brie, certainly there's certain times of the year when wahoo are something that you really want to target. Yep. And I truly believe the reason why guys like catching them is because of the scream and drag that I referred to in the beginning of the show.
They taste good. We know
and
that.
Certainly we love to eat them. And more importantly, they can be prepared a million different ways. And I'll share some of the ways I like it throughout the show tonight because I'm looking forward to what these guys got to say.
All right, well, we have our CCA workbench wahoo wizard, Dave Farrell, who's giving us some tips, along with special guest Steve Grant from Diamond. Hello, gentlemen.
Yeah, you can't call me the wahoo wizard when Steve is here, because Steve is the real wahoo guru. We'll call him that because it rhymes better.
Well, you're stealing money again, Dave.
Yep, Diamond Fishing Products is here and going to show us all about, you know, some of the lures to use and how to high-speed troll. So
perfect. Yeah. Well, that's what we need to catch.
Glad you're here, Steve. Thank you.
All right, first up, we're learning the who's who in the Real Legends Central East region with Captain Jim Ross. So, Jim, get us excited for fall.
Well, you know, in my region, we do get a real good run of fish coming in the fall time. You know, and it's those natural ledges that we fish over. It's that 180-foot stuff, that 250-foot stuff. But honestly, anywhere where you find a rip or a weed line, especially in the fall and winter time, those temperature breaks, those things, those features that you would look for any other time of the year, this is the time of the year in the fall and winter time when we have really good numbers of these fish that start to come into our region. And it seems like if the water temperature gets down around 72, 74 degrees and then butts right up against the stream, that's when it gets the best. That's when we seem to get that those good hard edges. But you know, most of the time the guys are out there trying to high-speed troll for them. And you know, obviously a naked ballyhoo, a started ballyhoo for the guys that are just out there trolling for whatever bites. You know, the wahoo will come along and eat that too. But you know, you guys are going to get into some real technical stuff tonight, it looks like, at the workbench. And the guys that really want to target wahoo are technical guys. They get out there and they do specific things on specific features out in that ocean to catch these fish. And there's going to be some really good stuff that's going to come up here tonight. Most of our king mackerel right now are in, you know, up to the north. We're not getting a whole lot of them. The ones we're getting are kind of small, but as the winter comes on, we're going to get some better ones. One thing that you do want to look for, though, is anytime that we get king mackerel in on our 70 to 90-foot reefs, and I mean not just king mackerel, but the small king mackerel, those 6 to 10-pound class king mackerel, anytime that we get good schools of those coming into those shallow reefs, look for an occasional big wahoo to show up around them, and some of these fish can be into the 70 and 80-pound range. So don't overlook that. Got a nice little photo here of one of the wahoo that we had recently caught in the region from Ryan Spencer. And you can see they're not big, but we do get some this time of the year.
Attaboy.
Now, the other species that I did talk about was the king mackerel, and we've got plenty of those right now. Captain Richard Bradley was catching good numbers of those fish on the beach all last week. I was targeting, and here's the thing. The beach fish are in about 30 to about 40 feet of water on average. And if you stay just inside of that, you'll get more tarpon and sharks. But if you get out into that 30, 35, 40-foot range, that's where you're going to start picking up the kings. But most of the time you want to head to the reefs right now, the 60 to 90-foot reefs, pull a sea witch, a diving plug, you know, on a downrigger or a planer. Live baits, obviously, pogies, sardines, greenies, mullet, all of those things are a solid bet. Pull them on a 2-hook stinger rig type of a scenario, and you're going to catch plenty of fish. Most of our kings are running about 15 to 20 pounds right now, and there's a few bigger ones. Got a really cool picture here. Got Brady Blackburn and Will Gorrich with a couple that they caught right in front of the Artemis rocket the other day. And you can see that you don't have to be too far off the beach, but as long as you're in that 30 to 40 foot depth, you can get some pretty good ones out there.
That's cool, man. All right, let's go inshore.
Now, staying along the near shore slash in the flats or in the deeper sections, deeper flats of the lagoon systems, we've got tarpon. And, you know, all of the backwaters right now, the Mosquito Lagoon backwaters, Captain Mike Mann's been sight fishing them with live bait in the Edgewater, New Smyrna area. Captain Troy Perez has been finding them up in the northern end of the Indian River. Myself and my son Justin have been finding them outside of Port Canaveral and in the Banana River. So they're all through the region. And the tarpon are hitting pogies, pilchards, and mullet right now the best, especially in the Indian River. The schools of these fish can be pretty big. For the time of year that we have right now, we don't have a lot of bait fish inside in the central and south part of the region, but we do have some big schools of tarpon in the region, and some of those fish are running 70 to 125 pounds. Look for them along the ICW around the bridges like the NASA Causeway, the Bennett Causeway, the Pineda Causeway. Even down at the O'Galley Causeway this week, there was a good school that worked through there, and you guys and gals can get out there, throw a finger mullet, throw a pogie, slow troll it around, and you can get one. And of course, anywhere along the beaches you can find these fish right now. And I've got another picture here. This is one that Rod Harding caught with me the other day. Typical beach fish, you know, mid 60 pound, 70 pound class fish. But good size fish that the average person can pull on and not get completely worn out. Now, my last species is snook. Snook fishing has been really good throughout the region. Slot size and underslot fish are in the lagoon systems under just about, seems like any mangrove bush that has 2 feet of water or more around it. These fish are holding on. You can find them around the bridge fender pilings up in the New Smyrna area, both the north and south bridge. All of the inlet jetties are having them right now. Best baits at daytime are live baits, obviously. At night, an R&R flare hawk, a saltwater assassin 5 to 6 inch swim bait, or a lip diving plug work great, especially if you're working on those outgoing tides. As we come into this next new moon, we're going to find that we're probably going to have a spawn occur, even though it's late in the year. The fish that I'm getting ready to have for dinner actually had roe in it that was undeveloped roe. So that's an interesting thing, because our mullet run started early this year along the beach, but the snook seem to be spawning later this year. So if you guys and gals think that you can, you know, live without a snook fillet, put a couple of them back in the water. We put plenty of them back in the water that were legal size fish, and it doesn't hurt you a bit because those fish are going to be there a little later in the year whenever the spawn is over with. So give them a little bit of a break. Average fish is running 28 to 38 inches, and I've got another picture here. Emily Rutzis got this one at Canaveral with me the other day, and so you can see there are some oversized fish as well.
Hey, Jimmy, I got a question for you. I know that you had a charter today. Your customer allowed you to take a snook home to eat dinner. He gave it to you, his fish. So my question is, how are you going to cook that for Miss Robin tonight?
I knew that was going to be the question.
Well, see, I'm normally a fried guy. I love fried fish. It is what it is. But because Robin doesn't like fried fish as much as I do, I'm going to put it on the grill, put a little bit of seasoning, I kind of do a mixture of Old Bay and Tony Chachere's. That way it gets a little heat and a little salt, but it still has that good Old Bay kind of a flavor to it as well. And drizzle a little butter and a little lemon on it. Bam, I'm ready.
You should hear the peanut gallery over at the workbench.
Well, we appreciate you making us hungry now after all that. We appreciate you starting off tonight. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Central East region. He says, inshore, snook at the inlets and the jetties use live bait such as finger mullet, pogies, croakers, and pinfish on a sliding sinker or a knocker rig, and then offshore king mackerels along the beaches, as well as structure out to about 90 feet of water. Slow troll live baits on a wire stinger rig will get that job done on those kingfish.
He's gonna have himself a snooky snack tonight.
Snooky snack.
Sounds so good. All right, it's time to get ready for the 2022 Hunt for Redfishers presented by Full Tail Outdoors, October 8th and 9th, with the captain's meeting on Friday, October 7th. The tournament region is from Ponce Inlet to Sebastian, and daily check-in is at 6 p.m. with the Off the Water Event Hub Captain's Meeting and Awards at the Titusville Civic Center. There will be cash prizes for pro, amateur, and youth divisions in first, second, and third places, and all proceeds benefit our local community to combat homelessness and addiction recovery partnership with Crew 29 and Walkabout Recovery. For more information, go to huntforredfishers.com. All right, well, your captain in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region has great news if you plan on reeling in a hoop. So show us those photos. Get some good ones this week.
Well, Wahoo, we've actually had one of the best seasons I've heard of in a long time. You can start looking for fish in 100 to 150 feet of water, which is shallow for us. Get out there, start looking for frigate birds, bait schools, floating flotsam, fast trolling, 12 to 17 knots. You're basically on plane. You're on a slow plane, trolling tremblies, door knockers, sea witches, with anywhere from a 15 to 20 ounce trolling weight in front of it. Some of the best colors in our region are purple and black and red and black. Another tip, get on your computer and look up the sea temperatures and see if you can find a break where the water temperature changes. Or if you're on the boat already and you have Cirrus weather, you can just punch up your Cirrus weather and you can actually look at those breaks and the temperatures. Get on those. Another way to do it is flatlining when you're over a reef or wreck in that 150 on out. Put a flat line, put a beeliner out the back, and that's been catching a lot of fish lately. And I got a photo here from Captain Jason Stocks with a nice West Coast Wahoo.
Nice. All right, what else you got?
Captain Rob Davenport, Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete, is reporting on gags. He's been catching great fish in that 200 to 250 foot of water right now. He said the best times are early in the morning, late afternoon when the water is a little cooler. Cut sardines, tip with squid has been working really good. 80 to 100 pound fluorocarbon leader at 8-ounce circle hook or 8-aught circle hook. 10 ounces of lead has seemed to be doing the trick. And I got a photo here of Johnny Briscoe with a great gag. I know you're liking that one, Rick.
Oh.
For the Big Nasty.
Yep. Dang. All right, what else?
Gotta get you over here to catch one of them.
I'm ready.
Moving inshore, Captain Bobby Rady out of Steinhatcher reports the redfish bite's been good. Work the near shore on the incoming tide. Find that hard bottom or creek mouse first thing in the morning. As that sun heats up, most of the fish are going to be pushing back into the creek mouse, into that cooler water, so push on back there as it gets cooler. Moving down the coast a little bit, Captain Jimmy Huddleston of CaptainHud.com reports the Ozona Fish Camp fall redfish have pushed into St. Joseph Sound right now on low water. The redfish are tailing very aggressively and working up and down the shallows. As the tide floods behind them, a tailhook shrimp and a spoon seems to be best. As the water gets higher and the fish move up onto the flats, start working those mangrove edges, and he's working the mangrove edges that have mullet schools in them. That's where those fish are going to be. Cut pinfish has been the best bait to get up there and tight with the bushes, and I've got a couple redfish photos here. Captain Bobby with a nice pair of redfish from Steinhatchee, and a stud redfish from Captain Jim Huddleston at Ozona.
There you go. Good job, bud. All right, what else you got for us? Any report from Mario?
Yeah, Mario, Tall Tales Charters out of the plantation in on Crystal River. Good snook bite this week. He's fishing right now the western-facing points in Homosassa, Crystal River, and Yankeetown. He's using live free-line pinfish on a 4-aught circle hook and drifting them across the point edges. High incoming tide has been the best down south in the clean water, and a low incoming tide has been the best up north in that stain water. Most of the snook are coming back from the spawn offshore and are all around top slot or just over. And many of them are over 40-inch class. And I've got a picture here of Mario Costello with his beautiful wife, Lindsay Costello, with a monster 42-inch snook caught recently.
Nice.
Both nice catches.
Yes, I must say, good job, Mario. Keep up the good work. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at those Zeliki Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. My man Jeff says inshore, snook on the beginning and the end of the outgoing tide use pinfish and grunts with a 1-ounce lead drifted in the past, and then offshore mangrove snappers. They're going to be on the high relief in 15 to 35 feet of water using small pinfish and sardines on the knocker rig.
Those were some good photos out of the Discover Crystal River Northwest
You got it.
region. All right, the Casa Vejas Southwest region is showing us its stripes next. But first, Dave Farrell is helping us reel in some stripes, or should I say Steve Grant is helping us reel in some stripes.
Yes, he's going to share all his tournament-winning techniques and all of his numbers for his best spot.
Yeah.
Keep
Right?
praying.
Let's go with that.
Dave.
Oh, man.
Fish tails. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. SiriusXM Marine. weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Real legends. Everything you need to live life local. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Stiffy. Innovators in shallow water performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
We're here at the CCA workbench for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques, and Steve Grant has come all the way down from the Jacksonville area where they catch a lot of big wahoos. I did a show there once and we caught a ton, and he's going to tell us a little bit about high-speed wahoo trolling. Now, how did all this high-speed trolling come underway? Why are we high-speeding, and what does that mean?
High speeding is not a new thing. It's been around for a real long time. I'm not going to say that any of us created it, but you know, it kind of did start in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And the one nice thing about high-speed fishing is it allows you to cover a lot of ground in a shorter period of time to try to find those active fish.
Right.
So when you say, hey Steve, what's high-speed fishing? To me, it's faster than your ballyhoo would stay together. Okay, so 10 knots to 20 knots. Okay, so it's hard to keep you know, a natural bait together at those higher speeds. So, and every boat's going to be a little bit different. Some boats will get on plane at like 17 knots, and that way you can save a little bit of fuel.
You're not plowing.
Exactly. So one thing that we're not doing when we're high speeding is saving gas. Okay?
Right.
So you know, we're just trying to find those active fish. And the other thing about high speed fishing is you really eliminate a lot of the bycatch. So it seems like the faster you go, the less barracudas, king mackerel, and amberjack that you'll end up catching on a daily basis.
Well, because wahoo he's built for speed. He's made to go fast. So when something goes fast by him, he chases it, you know, like a cheetah chasing an antelope. And if it's moving fast, it keeps all those other fishes from chasing it, probably.
Bring me on to something else real quick. One of the reasons that we use such a larger bait, okay, or a lure, is when we are going fast, it seems smaller to the fish. So we want to make sure that we do catch those the fish's attention. And the other thing too is with all these beautiful colors, and one thing I will tell you guys, we just acquired Zack Attack lures this year, so we're extremely excited about that. And I caught a ton of wahoo on these lures this year. But we make all these colors so that all these fishermen have something else to buy.
Right.
So on my boat, as long as I have some dark profiles and some light profiles, and I'll actually even alternate that on different sides of the boat, and then that kind of allows us to slowly key in on what they may be hitting on that particular day.
Does it have anything to do with if it's a sunny day or a dark day? Do you do anything like that? I know for marlin, you know, we like to run bright lures on dark days and dark lures on sunny days, or vice versa. Some guys do.
You know,
anything to that to you?
I'll tell you that every day I have dark and light.
There you go.
Because you know, in our
I always
research,
like to have a black one back there.
Well, you got to have a black one, and usually we have 2 or 3. Okay,
Right.
But even if it's sunny out, if it's cloudy out, it's easier for a fish to see a darker lure because of the shadow.
Right.
Okay. So we want to make sure we always have something out there to give them options.
I see you got some pretty big, heavy gear here. You're what kind of line and tackle are we using?
Well, I like fishing big, and keep in mind that, you know, we're trolling around at 16 to 18 knots.
That's a bent bucket.
This is one of my apps. So this thing was a hot rod this year. Okay, this is a Penn 70 VSW. I like to fish with hollow core because I don't just wahoo fish with this reel. I marlin fish with it. I swordfish with it. I also catch my 130-pound hollow core. And on this one, I've got one of our new hollow cores that actually changes color every 50 feet.
So you can tell how far you're going back.
So we can tell how far we're going back, and it kind of helps, you know, reduce the amount of tangles. Because having a tangle when you've got, you know, $800 of gear behind the boat, it can be
all those heavy weights and everything.
All these heavy weights, it's awful.
So when I'm usually wahoo fishing, one of my lines that gets nailed the most is my shotgun line, the longest one back there. Are you guys pulling stuff pretty far back when you're going fast?
You know, depending on the boat and the crew that I have for that particular day, I'll fish as little as 3, as many as 6, okay? So yes, we do fish shotgun lines, and my shotgun is typically about between 3 and 350 feet, and we start getting closer from there. So I will say one of the tricks that we've done for years, and it works really well, is the farther you get away from the boat, the lighter the trolling weight, okay?
I got you.
So my shotgun line might be a 16 or a 24 ounce, and as you stagger and get closer to the boat, they get a little heavier. Because if you're in a turn, a light lead will actually float over a heavy lead.
I got you.
So once again, we don't want to get a tangle out there,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So
you got to watch your turns. I noticed that you have some of the shock leaders with the mono and some with the wire. Real quick, what's the difference between those?
So if you're going to get cut off by a wahoo, it's typically because they come up and they do hit one of the trolling weights, okay? And then their teeth will slide down and cut the shock leader off. So if you're in an area where there is a lot of chances at a lot of wahoo, for instance, the Bahamas.
Yeah, where you get the multiples.
Some of these, yeah, they'll get 20, 30 bites on a tide sometimes. So we make a cable shock leader so that way if the fish does accidentally hit the trolling weight and he does slide down, he doesn't cut off the lure.
Beautiful. Hey, that was it, man. That was a quick 5 minutes.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me,
We could
guys.
win an hour, I'm sure.
You guys are
We're going to have to do a Wahoo show, hour long.
A lot of good stuff over there. All right, finding your weekend who in the Casa Vieja Southwest region can be a little tricky, but it can be done with Captain Ronnie Houston's guidance. So, Ronnie, guide us.
Well, like you said, Brie, you know, it's not something we do here on a everyday basis, but the opportunity is out there. You know, you want to start in depths of about 180 feet, and you can work as far out as to the Pulley Ridge. Now, one of the best ways is going to be trolling, like the gentleman just mentioned, and then also you got to cover a lot of water. But a little tip I'll give you is, according to Capt Mike Avanon, if you're new at this or you have Sirius XM, it's one of the best ways to figure it out, and the fish mapping can always give you a general head start with recommendations of areas to find the fish. Dark lure combinations and large bugs for high-speed trolling is going to be recommended, but a good lure guys use over this way is a lure called the Wahoo Whacker. That also works well. Heavy tackle is a must when trolling, and also a tip that they told me about was as you hook a fish, you want to make sure you're moving forward with the boat and keep the leader low to the water. This will help from a lot of these fish shaking off the hook. Now on the offshore side, September, mangrove snapper and yellowtail snapper fishing has been great. Good reports, but mixed reports. Great time of year to be fishing right now, the wrecks, the ledge, hard bottom. Now to the south, you want to fish in depths of anywhere from 45 to 60 feet of water. Now Naples to Fort Myers Beach, quality snapper are also being caught depths of 80 to 100 feet. And also from Fort Myers Beach to Stunt Pass, it's a little bit less, 75 to 95 feet of water. Everybody's been telling me chumming is going to make it a lot easier, whether you stop by your local tackle shop and get box chum, maybe get some pilchers out off the beach and cut them up, or as you're running offshore and running to the thread fins, you can also dice them up. And once you get the chum out, depends where they are in the water column. You can use flat line, or you can use jig heads anywhere from 1/8 ounce to 1/4 ounce. If you can't get the fish to bite and they're not coming up that high in the water column, you can also use chicken rigs on the bottom. Baits are going to be cut squid, herring, or sardines. Either way, getting limits right now can be easy as long as we have the conditions that are good to run offshore. I got a prime example in an event over the weekend with Kevin Johnson, Take a Soldier Fishing event, 8 to 10 foot seas, but they still managed to get out and get them some good snappers. The inshore report. Redfish reports to the south. Bite is really improving, particularly on your mid-tides, where you want to have enough water to work the outer Gulf points for mangrove shorelines. Now the key tide is going to be that top of the high. Same thing goes for the Estero Bay area, but it's a little opposite. On your lower water, you want to work the flats, you'll find groups of schools holding. They can be found on those calmer days or light wind days. Look for these fish rippling on top of the water. But as the water gets high, those fish are going to roam off the flats towards your independent islands, or the east wall has also been holding good fish. Both of these areas, your cut baits and pinfish seem to work best. Chumming live pilchers if you can get them, or if you're fishing those flats on the lower water, the Berkeley hijackers, gold spoons, or artificial shrimp and paddle tails on 8 ounce jig heads have also been working well. I've got some pictures of the event over the weekend. Plenty of redfish being caught down to the south with myself and another captain that was in the event. Last species is going to be the snook. Now the snook fishing is great all through the region, but to the north, it's good along the passes and beaches from Estero Bay to Redfish Pass. Docks are also holding a lot of fish, but they're mainly on your outgoing tides, whether you're fishing day or night. Down to the south, all the way to the Everglades, your mid-tides to the top of the high has been best, although there's still a lot of oversized fish down south, as well as a lot of fish in the 22 to 27-inch range. You still got to play the numbers games. There are slot six mixed in, especially to the south. with the season open. Baits are going to be cut baits like ladyfish, mullet, live pinfish, and pilchers, but don't discount your artificial topwater walk the dog lures and 3 to 5 inch swim baits. There's a couple pictures of a couple slot fish. One was caught up in the stero at the event over the weekend, although you can't keep him to the north. I got a picture of a nice slot fish I caught down in the south. He went to the frying pan. Weather's looking good for the weekend. Get out, offshore and inshore, catch you some fish.
All right, Ronnie, thank you for keeping us rolling straight. All right, bud, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Catty Can hotspots from the Southwest region. He says inshore, trout and Pine Island Sound, the west side of York Key to Demere Key, fishing areas of grass and 2 to 4 feet of water. And then offshore, cobias in Naples to Fort Myers Beach, the wrecks, the towers, artificial reefs using live baits, artificial eels, and swim baits are gonna catch those cobes, dudes.
Dudes and dudettes. All right, the
Girls
West Marine
and boys.
CCA Florida Star competition ended Labor Day, and the winners have been posted. Check out the Star website to see who they are. Over 100 winners will be awarded their prizes on October 8th in Cocoa at the Star Awards ceremony presented by Visit Space Coast, and one of them is Derek Lodeholtz, who won the last cast promo and will get to choose which Florida Insider Fishing Report captain he would like to fish with. Come join some of the Fiffer crew and the winners at the awards ceremony. There will be your favorite fishing celebrities, raffles, silent and live auctions, live entertainment, dinner, complimentary adult libations, and each guest will receive an awesome swag bag. Purchase your tickets soon, as this event is always sold out, and tickets can be purchased by going to the ccaflstar.com website.
There you go.
Sounds like a fun time. All right, the Startron Central West and Garmin Panhandle regions are gearing up for some toothy critters when we return, so stay hooked right here on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Yeah.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. Florida Coast Equipment, your local Kubota dealer. Coast to coast, we've got you covered. And Garmin, plot your paradise.
Welcome back. The Startron Central West region is full of surprises, and so is Captain Jeff Page. So tell us where and when we can find those Wahoo, Page.
Well, we're a good ways out in the Gulf. When? Probably the prime time, late winter, early spring, and then again in the fall. And pretty much, you know, you can start by trolling deep dive and lip plugs and surface plugs from 40 to 150 miles out, along with your standard tuna billfish spread. You know, Captain Chris Seeger of Tight Lines, another thing he likes to do is run out to his bottom fishing spot in that 50 to 90 feet range and pull plugs around that area, mark your spot, and then start looking around on that bottom. You might find a new area that the wahoo are living above the groupers and snappers on that structure. So that's why it's a good idea. You control high-speed stuff in that 12 to 17 knots around that same area. And Chris likes to use the red and black feathered wahoo lures. And 30 to 80 pound and 50 pound tackle is fine. I've got 3 photos tonight. The first one is of Captain Jason Stock out of Anna Maria Full Send Charters with a beautiful wahoo. Second one is down the south part of the region with Captain Randy Powell of Venice. And the third one is a giant wahoo that they caught, again, during the Sarasota Slam. And that one was with Captain Tim Noe and his crew.
Nice.
Dang.
All right, let's go offshore. What else you got, bub?
All right, we got an amberjack, and pretty much, from what I understand, the whole West Coast right now, I bet even down your way, Rick, amberjack fishing, because we've had some nice weather, and guys have been able to get out to those 110, 150-foot ledges and springs, drop down a pinfish, drop down a blue runner, or better yet, chum the AJs up to the surface and then throw vertical jigs or popping plugs at them. Just make sure you got some heavy-duty hardware. Moving inshore, red fishing is probably as good as I've seen it, Rick. up until all that red tide. You know, it just gets better and better each week. We're just coming off the full moon, and I believe a lot of the fish have pushed in out of the Gulf onto your outer points and bars, all your popular spots, starting down south, Turtle Bay and Bull Bay, on the west side of Lemon Bay, around all those oyster bars and islands, Rick, that we used to fish tournaments in. And then as you get up my way, Sarasota Bay, Long Bar, up into Palmasola, Terracea, and even South Tampa Bay off Joe's Island. It's not uncommon to see 2 or 3 schools in a day, and a good lure to have on your rod at all time would be a 1/4 ounce Johnson Gold spoon. I like throwing the Berkeley stick shad if the floating grass is not too bad, but you better have some live pinfish and pilchards along, you know, with you on these missions of looking for these redfish, because that will always catch them. I've got a beautiful redfish photo tonight of our birthday boy. This one's for all the fish fans of Randy Tao. He got to fish with me yesterday on his birthday
cute.
with Javier Esposito, who runs his shop down there in Almirada.
Happy birthday, Randy. That's awesome.
And my last species tonight, the snook fishing, Rick, the water temperature. You know, you're always talking to me about water temp. Well, it's dropped from high 80s down to the low 80s. Like I saw 83 today. And that's got the snook really fired up. Guys are catching them in the passes. They're also catching them up on top of the oyster bars on the higher stages of the tide. You can use live bait. If you do, I like to cork them. But that Berkeley gulp shrimp or a fish bite on a 1/4 ounce jig head down on the bottom in between the sand and the oysters, or in between the grass and the oysters on the sand, is a tough combo. My last photo tonight is another big Manatee River snook caught by Captain Griffin Deans at Slot Machine Charters.
All right, thanks for all the pictures. I'm glad to see you got to take Randy fishing. That's quite a fun deal. Thank you so much, Paige. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck Central West hotspots. The page says that inshore schools of mostly overslot redfish are holding on the oyster bars in North Sarasota Bay to Terracea Bay. Try live pilchards or pinfish. That's going to be your best bet. And then offshore, lots of amberjacks holding on the ledges in the springs in 90 to 110 feet of water off of Venice.
Hey, top of show, you promised us some Wahoo recipes. Really quick, what's your favorite one?
My favorite one, I like to cut the Wahoo in sushi, then put salt and pepper on it, and then 20 minutes before you're ready to eat, squeeze a lemon over it, put it in the refrigerator, and let it kind of cook in that lemon juice. Yeah. That's the way to go.
Oh yeah, maybe a little.
That's a Bahamian Ian Rademacher recipe. He taught it to me.
Sounds good.
Yep, man.
Oh man, there's really no wrong way to eat it.
Nope.
All right, the Garmin Panhandle region has the who and so much more. So let's check in with Captain Pat Deneen on our fishing future. Go for it, Pat.
Hey, Brie, the only wrong way to eat it is to overcook it. I agree 100% with what Rick just said. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Wahoo are some of the best eating fish out there.
They are.
And we catch them in the Panhandle Garmin region spring through fall, and there's actually a really good fishery further to the west out by the river mouth, late winter, early spring. We had a lot of them around in June and July, but there seems to be a bit fewer of them around lately. Fall can be the best time of year, however. So look for them just off the edge, you know, around the knuckle, the elbow, you know, basically the breakdown where it goes from 180 to 250 feet or so. Troll high-speed lures between bottom spots is usually very productive. Look for color changes, rips, and floating debris, and then just pull a basic trolling spread of subsurface baits are really effective on Wahoo. So use trolling leads ahead of your ballyhoo, diving plugs or tremblers. Like I said, the best time of year for Wahoo fishing seems to be just coming up in this fall time, that September, late September, October, November time frame. We're just looking for that good quality water. But staying offshore, there are a lot of dolphin in our offshore waters right now. Basically just a few miles off the beach to well off the beach. Anywhere you find structure that might be holding dolphins, chances are it is. Look for anything floating and check it out. Trolled ballyhoo, skirted ballyhoo, small swimming or skipping trolling lures are all effective on the dolphin. But if you really want to catch them, have some spinning rods ready to play with, either jigs or live bait or cut bait rigs. You know, when you find a concentration of dolphin on a floater, you're usually going to come by it a couple of times, have a few bites, And you're going to come by and still see the fish, but you're not getting bites. So that's the time to shut the boat down, ease up to it, and start throwing jigs or live baits or cut baits. And there's a photo sent in by Captain Mickey O'Reilly. He's the owner of Affliction Charters out of Destin. He had one of many dolphin caught this past week on an all-day charter. They had a really good trip offshore fishing the fads and also some floaters that they found.
They look like they got beautiful weather too there, Pat.
It has been calm, Rick, for quite a while. Moving inshore, the mid-September and the fall is a great time for redfish in the Panhandle, and the redfish are definitely here right now. Live baits, particularly big live baits like croakers and spot minnows, are the key. You can catch the redfish on live baits, but you don't want to be fishing. You can catch them on all kinds of live baits, but you don't want to be fishing next to someone croaker fishing. Chances are they're going to be out fishing you by a long shot. So make sure you have the good quality baits. Fish the moving water, especially the beginning and the end of the falling tide. Use a Carolina rig with enough lead to hold bottom and 3 to 4 feet of 40-pound fluorocarbon. And there's a picture of one of many redfish we caught this past week fishing live baits and jigs out of Choctaw Bay. And that should continue to be good through the rest of this month, well into the end of October, early November.
Nice.
Yeah, man. And then finally, Rick, the inshore, just like last week, there's really good inshore catches of Spanish mackerel coming from all the Panhandle bays. You know, target those grass flat edges and roll downs at 10 to 12 feet of water. Captain David Sherman out of Destin, he had several awesome moorings, chumming them up with small pilchards and menhaden. It's a light tackle fishery, so use light rods, light weights, light leaders, 30, 40-pound leader. You don't want to get cut off. Get your 1/4-inch mesh, throw it on a grass flat, get a bunch of pilchards or grass minnows or menhadens, anchor up or set your Rodan on anchor mode, and chum liberally with the live baits. Use 30 to 40-pound leaders and a long shank J hook to free line a nose hooks, minnow downstream of your boat, or fish a bait under a float. The Spanish are running up to about 2 pounds. Occasionally you might find one of those big axe handles, 4 to 6 pounders.
All right, Pat, I got a question for you. You know, if you're thinking about coming to the Panhandle region and you're not familiar with it, is there a way, you talked about croakers for those big redfish, is there a way that you can purchase croakers? Is there the bait and tackle stores, do they carry them? Is there a dude that sells them?
No, the bait shops don't sell it. There are a few guys that shrimp fish at night and have figured out that the croakers are a better commodity than shrimp in some ways. So if you know where to go get them, you can go get them. But really, Rick, you go to the bayous and do a 2-hook chicken rig with fish bites on it, a light leader, fish the bayou mouth, and usually within an hour or two, you're going to have 30, 40, 50 croakers or more, and that's what I do.
All right, that sounds like a great plan. It sounds like to me that croakers like the grunt to the snook. Those redfish don't care for them too much, and that's the way to really catch a big one. Thank you so much for clearing that up for us, Pat. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots. He says inshore, St. Joe Bay for scallops. The scallop season soon is going to be ending, but the scallops are fat and numerous, and the water is still warm. And then offshore, find those floaters and you'll find those dolphins, guys. Troll ballyhoo and cast live baits to catch those mahis. What do you think, Brie?
Well, I think the Yanmar Keys region is reeling and ready to go, but first, Dave has some Taka Marine new products that will have you reeling and ready to go catch stuff at the CCA workbench.
Take care of that appetite. That's what I'm talking about. Some wahoo dip.
We gonna be snacking.
Smoked wahoo dip. It's hard to beat that too.
Okay, so that's another good
I don't normally like to put a whole lot of fire on them. Just a little
Yum.
bit.
We'll be back.
Yummy.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Fenwick, feel everything. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, you can see we're here at the CCA Workbench. It's time to troll the edge with Tacos Marine new products. And one of the new products I just busted myself testing, Dave.
Yep, it's kind of hard to talk when you're chewing one of those whole wheat everything crackers.
What are we smoking? Wahoo fish dip, dudes.
Yep.
I'm just gonna tell you, it doesn't get any better than this.
No, it's owned and operated by 3 friends and their wives who shared a passion for smoking meat and cigars, actually.
Yes.
For quite a while, for 30 years, and turned the hobby into a passion. So they go out fishing and catch a bunch of fish and smoke them, and they ended up taking those recipes to the public, and that's what we got here. What are we smoking now?
I'm smoking
Smoked
Wahoo
fish dip. What are we smoking? Also, they also make their own crackers there. You see the whole wheat everything cracker there, keto friendly, as well as gluten-free.
And they have Wahoo swordfish and
dolphins
too.
Yeah, mahi dips.
Where do we go to buy it, find it?
Whatarewesmoking.com with no G. What are we smoking to get that?
What's next, Bo?
Next, we got the Keel Shield from Keel Guard. It's, a keel guard that you put on by yourself. It's one of the, the #1 do-it-yourself keel guard in the world. Protects your bottom from oyster bars or sandbars or just regular wear and tear. You put that on there and it adds an extra layer of protection for you guys who are wanting to go in shallow and not scratch up your boat. It's a really good thing. It comes in 9 different colors, and you can go to gatorguards.com to put get one of those to put on there.
All right, good work.
Next, we got these Bahio Sunglasses here. We're talking about these today because they're the temple of change, and it's Bahio has teamed up with the Oceanus AC in Quintana Roo, Mexico, and who develops reef projects for conservation. And what they do is they try to find good, healthy reefs, get samples and spawn them, and then take the little seedlings out and plant them in places where they can make more reefs. And they're doing a great job. Piper Nunn is the artist who got with Bahio and does these temples. She paints the insides of the temples there. That one's the coral, and they also have the NATO permit tail. Actually, you had the permit tail on. This is the coral version.
Right.
Anyway, $20 from every pair of these goes to the Oceanus AC for the construction and transplantation of coral reefs.
And just like all Bahios, we have the blue blocking light.
Correct.
Technology.
Yep. Great polarization.
Exactly.
Bio frames.
And without a doubt, the best warranty in the business.
There you go. BahioSunglasses.com.
All right.
Last but not least, we've got the Taco Marine Grand Slam. This is a mount for your center rigger. We were talking about Wahoos, and I was talking about I always get hit on my shotgun when I'm wanting to fish for Wahoo. Well, this is the one that you run your shotgun on. It's this is a mount for the center rigger up to a 1 1/8 inch outrigger, a center rigger, and it's it's the best way to put one. You put that up there on your hard top. You can also mount your shade fin to it and have a big shade over your cockpit really quickly. It adds additional height, or you can spin it back and forth there. Yeah,
what am I doing wrong?
There, you're doing it right. It's just heavy.
It's just heavy.
Yeah, it's hard. It should be hard. It shouldn't be whipping back and forth. But the knob, this knob here will give you 18-degree increments up and down, and 3-year limited warranty as well.
So Dave,
stainless steel, all stainless steel construction.
Yeah.
And a really big knob there because you're gonna have to be up on top to manipulate that. So you need to have a good big knob so you can grab a hold of it
and I love
work it.
All the stainless components because I can tell you when we
stainless and aluminum, anodized aluminum.
When we had the contender and it was time to trailer the boat home, being able to reach over and grab this knob was just so easy to put all of our antennas down,
right?
As well as to put the riggers down. It just made a huge difference.
Yep, that comes with a 3-year limited warranty as well.
And where do we go to buy this?
TacoMarine.com.
All right, well, I think while we got a second or two, you want a little Wahoo fish dip? What are we smoking?
I'll have a cracker.
Let's have that, and then Brie, you can just go ahead and take us to another
region. I see 3 containers, so one of those is mine. I know this. The Yanmar ASB Keys region is always ready to get that Wahoo surprise bite, so let's hear from Captain Sarah Stanzik on the details. Go for it, Sarah.
Hey, everyone. I just had that Wahoo fish dip like yesterday from Pines and Palms Resort is where they sell it. One of the places here in the Keys, and it's my favorite fish dip around for sure. And yesterday I went on the boat and I actually caught a Wahoo, which is funny because we're doing the Wahoo show tonight. Guess how big my Wahoo was that we caught?
8 pounds.
It was like, no, 8 inches. It was a Wahoo. It was the smallest Wahoo I've ever seen. It was like maybe 10 inches. It was tiny. This is so funny.
But let me tell you, you caught more than me and Brie did this week.
Yep.
A Wahoo. Okay. Well, Wahoo can be caught here in the Keys primarily in the winter and springtime, but there's always a few around throughout the entire year. Just like yesterday, me catching the little one. Not many people specifically target them as the thing. They're kind of like a happy bycatch while you're out catching mahi or tuna, which is what we were doing when we hooked into a Wahoo by accident that way. But they're also known to eat like live baits on your kite when you're targeting sailfish, for instance. So they're kind of a happy surprise when they happen, and we'll take a Wahoo any day, that's for sure. They're great fish to catch. They fight good. They can be jumpers. They're really just a cool fish. And as for table fare, they're one of my personal favorite sushi fish to eat. I actually prefer Wahoo over tuna for sushi. It's a very mild white meat that it basically melts in your mouth like butter, but they're a great fish to eat, whether raw or cooked. So if you're actually going to specifically target Wahoo, you want to use a wire leader for sure, and a really popular way people catch them is to do the high-speed trolling. So that's the best setup, really. But here's a nice Wahoo, a good-sized Wahoo, not a Wahoo, caught aboard the Gone Fishing charter boat.
Nice. All right, staying offshore, what else you got this week?
We've had a couple mahi around still. You know, summer's coming down, winding down, but there's still some fish offshore. So if you want to head out there, you want to go to around 500 or 600 feet. Yesterday when I was out there was kind of a dirty water edge, but they were in that dirty water. So if you're out fishing today or tomorrow, don't be afraid to look in that greener water because we saw some mahi on the weed lines there. But again, just go out, look for those weed lines, look for debris, look for birds diving down, marine, bait jumping, marine debris floating. We had live pilchers we used for bait, so those were good, or any kind of like frozen squid and ballyhoo. Here's a photo of a happy ladies trip with their mahi they caught aboard the Gimme Jimmy.
Nice. All right, let's run inshore.
Bonefish have been around. It's been really, really hot. Anyone who lives in Florida knows it's been brutally hot, especially in the Keys lately. So bonefish have been biting either like first thing in the morning or late afternoon sunset deal. They don't get up on the flats really shallow when it's so hot during the heat of the day. So first in the morning or later in the afternoon is your best shot at them. A lot of smaller sized bonefish around this summer. I've said this a few times, but we're happy to see those small fish because they turn into the next generation of those big fish that we want, big trophy fish. So they love live shrimp. That's my favorite bait to use, but they're also fun and challenging to throw a fly at as well. And here's a cool picture of a bonefish. He's just swimming in the water, but look at how cool he camouflages, like with the seagrass behind him.
Yeah,
They're
man.
such a cool fish, and his tail's all bright blue. Like, I love bonefish. One of my favorites for sure. That fish was caught by Captain Bill Bassett.
Nice. All right, what else you got this week inshore?
There's been a bunch of permit around the past month. There's been like nice permit caught on the flats. We've had a lot of slick, calm days, and those permit get up shallow and they tail, which is really cool to see. They act like bonefish. They get up shallow and look around for bait and stick their tails and fins out. So these slick, calm days we've had lately, they really like to get up and do that. They're really spooky and hard to catch, though. They're one of like the most sought-after sport fish here. Fly fishing is really fun to do for them, but challenging. But they'll happily eat like a live shrimp or a crab, too, and plenty of different flies. So hire a guide if you want to do permit fishing. Best thing you could do, really good permit guides down here. Spinning tackle like light gear, spin fisher reel is a good setup, or any kind of like those fly fishing guys know what to do. Here's a nice permit caught with Captain Jake's turret.
Nice. Hey, Sarah, I want to ask you, when you're bone fishing, are you using mono or are you using braided line?
We use braid on the main line, the main spool, and then a little bit of mono leader, like fluorocarbon, like 10 pound maybe.
All right. Sounds like a perfect combination. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspots from the Florida Keys. Our girl says that inshore, the bonefish are around On the inshore flats, look for the fish waking or just swimming in groups or singles and cast ahead of them. Hopefully, they will swim into your bait and find it. And then offshore, the blackfin tunas have been on the humps offshore. Try to get ready early out in the morning, and then live baits like pilchards, that will give you the best shot at catching one of those if you go early.
So what's the smallest wahoo you've ever caught? A weehoo or a wahoo? No. Sarah wins?
I've never caught a little one. Yeah.
Sarah wins this one?
Yes.
All right. You gotta lose sometimes, Ricky. All right, now let's take a look at some tournaments coming up in the Florida Keys.
Okay.
First, we have the Marathon International Bonefish Tournament, which has been around for 60 years, making this Mid-Keys tournament one of the oldest. Then is the Take Stock in Children Backcountry Challenge, where trophies for trout, snook, and redfish are awarded in this annual fundraiser supporting local vocational scholarships and Take Stock in Children scholarships. Next, we have the Ladies Let's Go Fishing Fever Inshore Offshore Tournament, where female fishing fans immerse themselves in an annual weekend seminar to learn inshore, offshore, bottom, and fly fishing and compete in a tournament designed for beginners. And last but not least, the Isla Morada All Tackle Bonefish and Permit Championship, dubbed the Fall All Tackle. This 3-day challenge attracts energized newcomers to face seasoned veterans in a competition that has taken place since 1970. For more information on tournaments, visit flakeys.com. Would you be the energized newcomer or the seasoned veteran?
I think I'd be a seasoned vet.
Oh. All right, well seasoned is you. The Alto Equipment Northeast and R&R Tackle Southeast regions are swimming at you next, coming up on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, so stay tuned. And remember to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures, along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Fenwick, feel everything. Strike Zone Fishing. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
All right, guys, Scott Martin here with your Power Pole Tip of the Week. You know, I travel all over the country fishing the Bassmaster Elite Tour. I'm going to show you a couple tips on some preventative maintenance that'll help you keep your power poles in good working order. All right, guys, so what you're gonna do is just remove the shroud, and you can see the nuts and the bolts right here. So you've got the nuts on this side. You're gonna wanna tighten these up pretty darn tight. This is what keeps the pole from swaying around a lot. Tighten these up really nice and snug. The 5 nuts here and these bolts, you're gonna wanna tighten those up again, snug and even. That's the most important thing. Just check these periodically as you travel up and down the road. Check them when you get to your locations. The other thing, the bolts that are connected to your bracket, to your jack plate, make sure you check those on a regular basis as well. Over time, things do get loose. So guys, that's my tip, 1-minute tip, Power Pole Tip of the Week. We'll see you.
What'd you say, Rick?
My man, he couldn't said it better. Got to check your nuts and bolts.
That's
I'm constantly nuts.
Oh, yes, it's true. And I'm ready to bolt.
Yes,
okay, Wahoo and the
right.
Fish Bites East region are really big this time of year, or really small, a weehoo or a wahoo, if you will. So let's check in with Captain Mike Holliday to get more details.
Yeah, you know, Brie, that's kind of the mix. Normally we see our best summer wahoo fishing on the full moons, but in September that just brings a lot of wahoo to the area. Looking to feed on the juvenile bonita and blackfin tuna. It seems like the best action shifts a little bit north to St. Lucie and Indian River counties. So places like the Ocalina Bank, the Steeple area, Push Button Hill and the 8 Mile Reef out of St. Lucie Inlet get a lot of wahoo. And then they also tend to be on the floating items that, you know, you see out in the water, like trees and pallets, and especially those things that sit deep in the water column. On the reefs, we tend to see the larger fish. While on the floating objects, we see those smaller fish, and often schools of, you know, 8 or 10 to 20 pound fish just kind of laid up on that little floating object. The key to wahoo fishing is get your baits down below the surface, pick up your speed to somewhere around 8 to 12 knots. You control a double hook mullet or ballyhoo on number 8 wire leader, or add a R&R Wahoo magnet to it, or you can high-speed troll with swimming plugs. And then the average Wahoo in my region is going to be like 20 to 40 pounds. But we'll see some fish that are pushing 100 pounds caught this month. Typically the biggest Wahoo of the year are caught in September. I have a Wahoo photo. That's Captain Charlie Stew. He got that Wahoo on the drop in the reef off of Jupiter, and that fish ate a live blue runner. The other fish we got going right now, the swell that pushed in over the weekend muddied up the water. That really fired up the snapper bite on the reefs off Jupiter, Hope Sound, and Fort Pierce. It's kind of a mixed bag of species. We're seeing a lot more yellowtails in the mix right now, particularly off Palm Beach County, but everything from big lane and mangrove snapper to mutton snapper of all sizes. They're all schooled up and feeding hard right now. Coming off the full moon, this is a really good week to do some grocery shopping out on the reef. You can anchor up and get a good chum line going with a mixture of ground chum and glass minnows, and then feed a juvenile pilchard or a sardine or a chunk of ballyhoo back into the chum, or you can drop a grunt plug or a ballyhoo plug down to the bottom so you can get a big mutton, or you can even just drift the reef with a sardine or cigar minnow, or that triple hook chicken rig baited with squid. Either way, you're gonna end up with a lot of snapper right now, and the average snapper is gonna be 1 to 8 pounds, with the exception of the muttons, which we'll see up to about 12 pounds.
Nice. All right, let's go inshore, Bub.
Yeah, we're seeing the big high tides of fall, and that's spreading out the snook as they move back into the rivers. So, there's a pretty good push of mullet, but you don't see it in force during the daytime. It seems like all the mullet are moving after dark. The big fish have really switched over to feeding on mullet. So places like the bridges and seawalls now will get these extreme high tides. The Lake Worth, the A1A Bridge, a 25-cent bridge, a Jensen Causeway, north and south bridges, and in Fort Pierce, all that's going to ramp up at night. There's still some fish on the beaches just outside the inlets, and also on the inlet dock lines at night. For the bridge fish, you can throw everything from a topwater plug or saltwater assassin swim bait to a flare hawk or a live mullet. And then on the docks, you want to go with a live finger mullet or a small topwater plug and work the edges of the shadow line. And then around the inlets and beaches, it's basically that copper juice colored sea shad or a live finger mullet. The average snook in my region is going to be 5 to 15 pounds. And we should see some bigger fish as well. I got a photo of a real nice one that Susan Dalton, Daniel Williams, and Lindsay Langley, they teamed up to catch that overslot snook, and they caught it on fly.
Nice. All right, let's talk about some tarpons.
Yeah, by the new moon next week, we should see a really nice flow of mullet on the beaches and in the rivers. That'll really fire up the tarpon bite. There's a bunch of fish on the beach to the north of my region in the minnow schools, up towards Jim's region. And those will taper out from this swell. All those tarpon should lock onto the mullet and push south. So, from now on, pick an inlet. There'll be a nice wall of tarpon blasting mullet at dawn, at dusk, and after dark, typically on the north side of the inlet or in the mouth of the inlet. There's also still a lot of local fish in places like Harbor Ridge, the Big and Little Mud Creeks, and up in the moorings channels. And, the mullet are going to be the way to go when you're targeting tarpon, either a live mullet or a dead mullet on the bottom. Most anglers will put out 2 fish behind the boat on a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 7.0 to 9.0 trocar circle hook, and then just have an angler on the bow casting a Houdini-colored sea shad or a live mullet at any fish they see rolling. Average tarpon in my region is going to be 40 to 100 pounds. I got a photo, one that Captain Chris Britton caught the other day. He got that fish to eat a live mullet in the Indian River.
All right, Mike, tell me about the bass fishing. How has the weather changed it?
Well, those hot weather temperatures of September, they don't slow down that South Florida peacock bass bite. In fact, the best fishing's during the heat of the day right now. The peacock bite's been hot really all over. Miami Airport Lakes, the C100, the C103 canals, Markham Park in Fort Lauderdale, the Ida Osborne chain in Palm Beach, even the Golden Gate Canal in Naples. Everybody's reporting good peacock action. The key right now is to find moving water or target structures like bridges, seawalls, and docks. The ambush points that fish can dart out from and grab a bait. Start your day throwing topwater plugs or prop baits. Then as the sun gets up, move to a Bass Assassin electric chicken or sungill or cantaloupe colored sea shad or one of those little boss or elite shiners. Something under 5 inches will work really well. Remember, peacocks don't eat worms, they eat fish. The average peacock bass is 1 to 3 pounds with fish to 7 pounds in the mix. And I have a photo here. That's Stella Del Santo. She caught that nice peacock bass on a live shiner. And Brie, I know that's your niece. How old is that little girl?
Stella is 6 years old, and we caught that just a couple days ago. She was so excited. She reeled it in all by herself.
All right.
So,
thank you so much, Mike. You did a great job tonight. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots. He says inshore tarpon and snook at the Jensen Beach catwalk, live shrimp, crabs, and mullet on the outgoing tide, and then offshore mutton snappers, mangroves, lanes, yellowtail snappers on the reefs of Peck's Lake. Used live pilchards, sardines, or thread fins in the 3/8 ounce jig head.
I'm sorry, did you say catwalk? Well, Wahoo lovers, we're in for a great few months of full moons and big bites, according to our captains. But stay hooked with us because we're telling you what our season finale species is when we come back. Yay. Season finale, what? All right, so next week is our season finale, and we're talking yellowtail. Woo! It's gonna be fun. Rick's already celebrating here.
You just keep talking. I got something to do over here.
Keep talking. I'll be eating and drinking tin cup. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to go out and catch those wahoo when they happen, where they happen.
Or the yellowtail even.
Or the yellowtail. Can we have some, Rick?
Bye, guys.
See you next week.